For over 5,000 years, sediments from the great Mississippi River built the most important estuarine area for the Gulf of Mexico in this country. 7,000 square miles of the Louisiana Delta. In as little as 70 years, by tampering with nature and changing the hydrology of the river, man has destroyed over 2,000 square miles of land in the state of Louisiana. Today, we are losing an average of 34 square miles a year. And in 2005, we experienced the largest land loss recorded in history. 217 square miles to Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. And the loss continues.
If we were under attack physically by another country, we would be pulling out all the stops to protect our people and our land. We're fighting a battle here to protect our land.
If something's not done to try to help all this whole delta, we don't have a chance.
If they keep on like it is, we ain't gonna be here much longer because the hurricanes are gonna kill us all.
It's been a tough battle.
I don't want to have to depend on the Chinese to feed me.
In 1965, President Johnson came down and he said, we're going to take care of everything and the U.S. government's going to make everything okay.
You may remember my pledge that our national goal would be no net loss of wetlands. The work that has begun in the Gulf Coast region will be one of the largest reconstruction efforts the world has ever seen.
We are not going to forget about the Gulf Coast. Together we will rebuild this region and we will rebuild it stronger than before.
This government needs to step up and do the right thing.
If we look at civilizations through time, one of the main reasons that civilizations collapse is because they exhaust their resource base. And when we look at coastal Louisiana from the standpoint of renewable resources, it is the most important estuarine area for the Gulf of Mexico, period.
Things are getting worse because of, the land loss, the wetland loss. Like I said, we have 40% of the nation's wetlands, 80% of the nation's loss. What will it mean for our lives? I have absolutely no idea. I mean, it would be a genocide, of our culture, a genocide of a people.
You can ask any fisherman how coastal erosion has affected our fishing communities. It's devastating.
Oh, the coastal erosion have changed the industry in a lot of areas, and this is the last good area left. Well, like I said, when I was a kid, you had about 15 oyster boats over here, and we're down to one oyster boat left.
If it continues at the pace it's going at, we don't know what the future holds for our fisheries. We need these estuaries and these wetlands to be intact.
If we want the civilization that we enjoy in the United States of America to be sustained, we must maintain our areas that are net producers of renewable and non-renewable resources.
We go around the world to protect this nation and our land. In our own backyard, we're not protecting our people and our land.
We fish, shrimp, hunt, the same traditional practices that our ancestors did many years before, and we still live that way today.
What happens here in Louisiana has an effect across the entire United States.
We're the Canary in the Coalmine. We are not unique. Houston, Miami, other coastal areas, in not only the United States but around the planet are going to face the same things we do.
Here's what's happening. There's a fine line on, what we do to tame Mother Nature and what Mother Nature does back to us. So the price that we have to pay is coastal erosion.
We used to have large land masses between these communities in the Gulf of Mexico, but as everybody knows now, the Gulf of Mexico is now encroaching on those very fragile areas in which people are currently attempting to live.
Well, the fundamental principle behind the parish's plan is the concept of multiple lines of defense. And this means that we can add landscape features, barrier islands or ridges or marshes, to the landscape that will have flood protection benefits.
You know, this has been a long journey for us as scientists, but we're getting there. And I think the approach that we're advocating for much of Louisiana is quite different than just building levees and flood walls around everything. It's to try and conserve and manage the natural productive functions of this system and yet allow for man to be there also.
Well, the quickest way of building features that would provide flood protection and environmental benefits is to build sediment-based ridges, for example, barrier islands, and then ridges that would be located right next to or adjacent to levees. These are a lot smaller footprint, the permitting problems are less, and the time frame for constructing them is very, very short, a matter of a few years.
What we're faced with now is this corridor of the Mississippi River that flows through Plaquemines Parish is a conduit for a huge amount of sediment. Every day, thousands of cubic yards of sediment flow through that corridor and are deposited in the deep waters of the Gulf of Mexico. We are learning how to get some of that sediment back out of the water and onto the land, both through recreating natural diversions and using dredges, not only for infrastructure for human use, but also as a platform for these wetland processes to operate in.
I believe we're seeing technology being developed, designs being developed to where direct placement of material into a land feature and alignment, a berm, if you want to say, that is designed in a way to protect the community behind that area from storm surge.
So the parish plan actually has three different types of projects, what we generally refer to as Type A, Type B, and Type C. Type A projects are those that can be accomplished in 3 or so years, something that can get almost immediate benefits. The Type B is from 3 years to about 10 years. These are marsh restoration projects. And then the final projects, the barrier island restoration, which might take a decade or so even to build, are the Category C projects. All three need to be done. The parish approach, and I think consistent with the federal and state plan, is to simultaneously start planning and building the Type A's while you're planning and looking towards building the B's and C's. And one example of a project that is a Type A project that's being permitted right now is in the southern part of the parish, right adjacent to a hurricane protection levee that protects the area of high economic activity associated with supporting the offshore oil industry. The area right in front of the hurricane protection levee on the western side of the river. So there's a levee there now that's protecting this critical infrastructure. It does not have 100-year protection. So what we're trying to do is improve that protection by constructing here. There's an illustration here that shows an area, a profile, and then a three-dimensional view of how the existing levee, which now has water in front of it, just open water, no marsh, no trees, no ground, and building a structure that would fill in this area. At the seaward side, have a protective barrier, and then create a gradually varying habitats, including a ridge that would have trees on it, such that now as when the storm surge comes in from the left, as it tries to impact these levees, it has to go through various types of marsh and the trees before getting to the levee. Now this project could be accomplished in about 1 year of construction.
This is the way to go to have a truly robust, self-sustaining system. Basically, It's no rocket science to this. Mimic Mother Nature. That's the message.
We have to have a delta. We have to have wetlands.
Our estuaries, our wetlands are this country's national treasure.
In addition to that, the river is a platform, or is a platform for the human beings who harvest those resources.
The Mississippi River is still the gateway to the center of the United States. Either produce or end up transporting about 40% or more of the natural resources, the oil and gas resources that power the United States of America. If coastal Louisiana goes, the expense to the nation will just climb and climb and climb.
We got to keep it going. It means a lot to this country, whether they know it or not.
Well, a lot of people see the coastal wetlands loss as a Louisiana problem.
I know if we cut the all off to them, they'll sure get cold up north this winter.
This community is a melting pot. The region is a melting pot of cultures, of not only of the United States, but of the world.
You know, you mess with Mother Nature, she's going to mess back with you.
We're truly in survival mode right now.
I don't think there's any other way to put it, you know?
It is unique, and it is worth saving.
We need to build land at the mouth of the river. Let's do it.